Introduction, and thank you for all you do here in Pennsylvania. As you know, Keith's been very active, and I've gotten to know Keith a little bit better during our time at Penn State with the at Penn State University and the Board of Trustees. He does a great job for the university there. I know he's committed to that. Very involved with the farmers too, and you know, it's very nice to be able to look around, and we've been working very closely with farmers since my time as Attorney General, and see the signs over there, farm families for Corbett. We really look forward to working with them during the campaign, as well as looking forward to working with the veterans, and you see the sign for the veterans for Tom Corbett, and I really do appreciate that. And I really have to thank General Lynch for being here. You know, I pulled him back to service. He had retired from the National Guard. He was with the Air National Guard and then became the Adjutant General for the Pennsylvania National Guard. I think he spent a few times overseas, over in the Mideast, with our troops that were over there during the last 10 years. But he retired, and I said, you know, if you want to get something done, you go and you look for somebody that knows how to do it with discipline, knows how to communicate the message, knows how to bring the people together and give them a mission, and you know you're going to get the mission accomplished. And that mission wasn't up here, but it was one that has an effect on the entire state of Pennsylvania. The mission was to help the city of Harrisburg, which was in great financial distress. So much in distress that the legislature urged me and gave me the legal authority to appoint a receiver to take the city of Harrisburg and their finances and bring them together and work their way through the financial difficulties that they have, and they're still working their way through that, but to give them a plan, to give them a roadmap. And it took a general, really, to be able to do that. And General Lynch was the one that did that. He has since stepped down as receiver. We don't have a receiver any longer, and we hope to see the city of Harrisburg move forward. So would you please give him a round of applause? And Keith, I agree with you. I'm going to disagree a little bit. Yes, this race is about us, a little bit. But it truly is about this generation that I'm looking down here on my right-hand side. It's about them. It's about all the children that are here and the ones that are coming here. I oftentimes talk about my grandson, that any grandparent talks very proudly about their grandson. And our daughter adopted him when he was 2 days old. He's now 2.5. And Liam is the apple of our eye. And if you've seen the commercial with my wife talking, you get to see Liam in that commercial with that big, bright smile. And he's smiling because he's got a great mother, absolutely, with my daughter with him. But he's got a bright future ahead of him. He doesn't know it. I think he just feels it innately. Not because, you know, he comes in, we have a great family for him to grow up in, because he's got a great state to grow up in. We've got to keep this state a great state to grow up in. And we have a great future ahead of us. You can see we have turned the corner. Or as I like to say, we've either turned the ship around, or I use an analogy now, that we have built the ship, the new ship of Pennsylvania, and is setting sail. And let me give you an idea. Let's go back. Let's turn the clock back just 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. And what did I inherit? And with the help of friends like Dan Muser, the Secretary of Revenue, and many other individuals, Ellen Ferretti from this area, who's our Secretary of the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. We've turned it around. We took a $4.2 billion deficit and eliminated it. And we kept the promise. What was the promise? Less taxes, more jobs. Did we raise taxes for that $4.2 billion deficit? No. Have we reduced taxes and we kept the promise? Yes. Besides Keith, any other family farmers in this room? You know? The family farmers, we eliminated the inheritance tax on the family farm. Small business owners here, we eliminated the inheritance tax on small businesses so that you can pass that down to the next generation. And that's extremely important. It gives you ease, gives you peace of mind that you're going to be able to pass that farm or that business on to the next generation. I think you want to be able to do that. You're not going to have to liquidate just to pay for state taxes. I can't do anything with federal taxes, so I'm sorry on that one. But we said we're going to reduce the taxes. We started the phase out again as it was started before I was in office, and unfortunately they stopped it in the prior administration, the capital stock and franchise tax. We made it simpler for businesses that pay corporate net income tax to decide exactly what they have to pay. We got rid of a element in that tax that said the more people you employ, the more your taxes. Let me repeat that. The more people you employ, the more you pay in taxes. Now that's a job stimulator if ever I heard it. We got rid of that. We went just to sales, and I think that's extremely important. And what's it doing? It's letting people say, do I want to grow my company here in Pennsylvania? Do I want to start a company in Pennsylvania? Or do I want to come to Pennsylvania? The answer is overwhelmingly, yes, that's happening. That's the future. That's what they're hopefully going to inherit. Because we kept our promise, less taxes, more jobs. So we created more jobs? Absolutely. Over 150,000 new private sector jobs. What's good about a private sector job? What's good is you're not paying for it through your taxes. That's being paid for by the employer and by the businesses that support the employer and the customers that support the employers. And that's exactly how we want this. Because that's part of what I call, and you call, the free enterprise system. And that's kind of great because that's what this country was founded upon. Free enterprise. People with an idea can go out and be entrepreneurs and start a new job. You know, think about the person that created, I'm going to tell you, just think of one toy, and I don't know who created it, but they took a hoop 60, 70 years ago, and they made a hula hoop out of it. How many millions of dollars did they make on that? Or I'd really like to know the guy who came up with the idea of taking plastic, putting orange in it, and making snow fences out of it. Think about that. But more importantly, how about the young men who created Google? Think about how they are changing the society with the high technology that they have. Or the people who are using robotics to work on people's hearts. That's free enterprise. And how do you get there? You keep the other two promises that I made. Number one is fiscal discipline. You can't spend money you don't have. We should not spend their future. And unfortunately, when you have a $4.2 billion deficit, they were being spent. Their future was being spent. We promised we would fix that, and we have. That fiscal discipline, living within our means. You know, our first budget, a lot of people didn't like it. Our first budget, it went down. First time the budget of Pennsylvania went down, listen to this number, in 40 years. 40 years we went and reduced the budget for the first time. That's huge. And why is it huge? And why do we go down? We didn't have the money. You all sit at the table maybe and look at your budgets and determine, well, I'm making so much money and we've got investments and we're going to have X amount of money, but you can't say I'm going to spend twice that amount or 3 times that amount. You have to live within your budget. Government should live within their budget. And that's exactly what we've made government do. Now, there are some in the government sector that aren't real happy about that because we actually reduced the size of government. How many think that we should have smaller government? Yeah. Well, I will tell you, there are those that are very upset that the size of government across the state and across local government is smaller now than it used to be. Well, it's smaller for a couple reasons. One, we didn't have the money. 2, technology allows us to do more, frankly, with less. And we've seen a lot of people take the third option and go, I can do that in the private sector. I can make more money in the private sector, or I can retire. So today, state government, under the governor's office, is at the smallest it's been in 50 years. There's some of you in here that are under 50 years of age. You can't even remember that far back. Right? Okay? We're doing it, again, for them because it allows us to attract business. We've seen industry grow. Earlier today, I was at a groundbreaking, a little belated groundbreaking. We didn't want to do it in January. Can't imagine why. Up in Tunkhannock. We were up there to do a groundbreaking on a power generation plant, an electric power generation plant. The first one of its kind. Why is it the first one of its kind? Because it's going to take the Marcellus natural gas and it's going to produce electricity. Over 800 megawatts of electricity being generated and put into what they call the grid to go and supply you and the people of northeastern Pennsylvania and over into New York energy so that you can use those cell phones that you talk on, so that you can light your houses, so you can power your businesses. And it's reducing the overall cost of energy. Today, as compared to 10 years ago, energy costs for businesses and individuals is about 40% less. Now, I guarantee you don't notice that, do you? When prices go down, you very rarely notice it, do you? I guarantee you when they go up, you're looking at your checkbook, oh, wait, I'm paying more this month than I did last month. Okay? But over the last 10 years, it's down 40%. That's the direction that we want to go. And you do that by that fiscal discipline, that limited government, and looking to you in the free enterprise system. And are people coming here? Absolutely. It's going to be interesting when we know who the opponent is come Tuesday night to start getting into that debate about, do you want to come to the Pennsylvania of today, or do you want to come to the Pennsylvania, turning the clock back, of 4 years ago? The Pennsylvania that continued to have high taxes, the Pennsylvania that couldn't get its budget done on time, the Pennsylvania that spent beyond its budget. Because that's what one of the options is out there that's running for office, and he's actually leading, because he's the Pennsylvania of the past. What we are looking at is the Pennsylvania of the future. And here's one item that I want you to take home with you. And it's a very good item for us to be able to say. And you should be proud of this. And, you know, I look at Dan Muser, and he's part of this team that has been able to do this. There's a magazine, a publication out there, that talks about citing businesses in a state. It's called Insight Magazine. And it reported that in 2013, Pennsylvania is #1 in the northeastern part of the country. #1 for the expansion or the creation of new corporate headquarters. #1. You should cheer on that. The other 8 states of the Northeast, my good friend across the Delaware River, Chris Christie, and on up into New York and everywhere else, combined, doesn't equal what we did in 2013. And why did we get that done? Fiscal discipline, limited government, free enterprise. Keep your promises. And in the nation, no, we're not #1, but we're #4. And we're coming after #1 in 2014. And why can we do that? Because we can offer a lot to the people who are looking to grow businesses. Look at where we are. You know, it's not too far to get to New York City if you want to go there from here. But really, from here, or from Pennsylvania, I should say, you can get to 60% of the population of Canada and the United States in one long day's drive. So think about citing businesses if you're manufacturing, how you can get your goods to market. 2, we got a great workforce. We're known for our workforce, for our work ethic. In fact, when my wife and I were over in Germany in 2012, we were at a German company talking to them about expanding what they already have here in Pennsylvania. I told them about the work ethic. And they said, yeah, we know you have that work ethic. 25% of your population is German ancestors, including my wife and children. Okay? So yes, we know about that. #3 is our energy costs. And with the Marcellus Shale growing here in Pennsylvania, natural gas growing because it's Marcellus and Utica, and in other parts of the state it's really growing. You should see exactly what's happening all across the state, where businesses are now, didn't even exist 5 years ago, are now employing 100, 200, 300 people. Because of that, these companies are looking at Pennsylvania. You know, recently, well, it's not that recent, it was a few months ago, I toured Lindy Corporate Construction, and I think Mr. Lindy's here, right? You're hiding back there. It's a little hard to hide. Okay, and I just have a note to myself. Because of shale, he's tripled his workforce, more than 300 employees, and 90% of which support the natural gas industry. If we hadn't made the decision to work with the Marcellus Coalition, to work to create the Marcellus legislation, and to develop our natural gas in a safe, environmentally sound way, he wouldn't be employing those people. We would not have the energy costs down where we have them. This is a future for these children. And that's what I keep looking at, these children. I don't make decisions based on that 2 or 4 or 6 year cycle of re-elections. I can't afford to. They can't afford me to do this. Because we in government, we are stewards. Too often, some of us in government forget that we are stewards. We are stewards for you and the children. And sometimes it makes, you have to make that tough decision that doesn't necessarily going to mean you're going to get reelected because people are going to be mad at you. But it's in the best interest of the children. And I can tell you every time I've made a decision, it's always been in what I believe is the best interest of the future of Pennsylvania. Not necessarily my political best interest, but the best interest of the future of Pennsylvania. And we're going to continue to do that. One of the reasons we're seeing jobs is I believe in our energy, and I go back to that. I came up with an equation that a lot of people are using now. Energy equals jobs. It's pretty simple. Yeah, very simple. Energy equals jobs. And American energy equals American jobs. We saved a refinery down in Philadelphia, the Sunoco refinery and the Conoco refinery. And they're actually using now crude oil that comes over from the Dakotas, not from Africa. And they are growing the refinery business in southeastern Pennsylvania when it almost closed when I came into office. You see it with all the upgrades that we're doing across the state. But we gave another element, a tough decision, a really tough decision. A lot of people counsel me against it because it's bad for re-election. I believe our number one role in government is public safety. Number one role. Before we do anything else, before we do business development, before we help the farmers, even before we teach in the schools, it's public safety. And when I became governor, I was presented with this. You know, I've driven a lot of the roads of Pennsylvania myself. And now that I'm governor, I don't get to drive. I sit in the back seat, and I wish I was driving because it's more comfortable in the front seat than it is the back seat. And I've been driving over these roads, but this was brought to my attention. 1.5 million. You know what that is? That's the number of children that we have that get on 31,000 school buses every school day and travel over 10,000 miles of roads that needed to be repaired, or 6,000 bridges that are structurally deficient. When I looked at it that way, I said, we've got to fix them. The fact that in passing a transportation budget, it preserved 12,000 jobs, helped, and probably has created for the next 5 years 50,000 jobs in the construction industry. So let's people get involved in that. That's great. But this was number one, public safety. But this fact, when we now talk to people like Insight Magazine, and I think it's going to change and make us even higher. When we talk to them, they say, yes, you got your energy, and that's great, and you're starting to get your taxes under control, and that's great. But the fact that you faced the transportation issue and took it head on is what's going to grow even more in Pennsylvania. Companies that are coming in from around the country and around the world are looking to that. And I talk to companies that are coming in from around the world on a regular basis. You may have noticed back in March I had the opportunity to go over to Rome with the Archbishop of Philadelphia and the Mayor of Philadelphia to actually meet with the Pope. And yes, that's quite an experience. But while I was over there, there was a company that wanted to come and visit me in Harrisburg. And they were in Italy, not in Rome, but in another part of Italy. And they said, we want to come and see you. I said, let me do something better. I'll come and see you. Because that's my job. I'm supposed to sell Pennsylvania. And that's what I did. I went and saw them. Do I know that they're coming here? Not yet. Do I believe they're coming here? Yes, I am. And that transportation, I think, was the final factor that is going to make them make that decision. Energy, workforce, location, and transportation. And that comes from being the Pennsylvania of today and the future, not of being Pennsylvania of the past. So if you add all that up, we can go to the people and say, you're going to have a clear choice. Somebody who was in the past administration, helped make some of the decisions of the past administration, because there's 2 of the 4 candidates, whether the treasurer or a congresswoman who has completely embraced the Obama administration agenda, or somebody who came and said, this is what we need to do to fix Pennsylvania. I'm going to fix Pennsylvania, and I'm going to keep my promise. That's going to end with this, and thank you for coming. And I'm going to ask you when you leave, don't stop there. Take some signs with you, but need to talk. We need to talk about this campaign. You know, we've seen approximately $30 million of ads run against me in the last 4 years. Some by the unions, and many by the 4 or 5 people that were running in the Democratic Party. And all of them were talking about my education cuts. And you know we didn't cut education, and we can talk to you about that story. But they've been talking and they've been spending a lot of money. In the meantime, we see the polls starting to slowly go in our direction. It's not being ahead in the polls today. It's being ahead in the poll, on one poll, on November 4th. And we get there with your help. I want you to talk about this race with somebody who isn't already in our camp every day. At least one. 5 minutes. One person a day for the rest of this month. June, 2 people. July, 3. August, 4. September, 5. October, 6. And November, 7. You got a real short period of time. Give me 5 minutes each one of those days. And you know what? That time is money. You know, I was a lawyer. We used to keep our billable hours. Time is money. And that'll be a donation. But it'll be a donation to them. It'll be an investment in me, but a donation to them. And I'm going to close with this. I one time heard somebody who was very important to this party. His name was Ronald Reagan. And when he was running for re-election, he said this in an ad that he gave to the American people. And by no means do I compare myself to Ronald Reagan. But he said something that we can use now. And that's this. Why would we ever want to return to where we were less than 4 short years ago? I'll say this. Why would we ever want to turn the clock back and go there? We need to go forward. We need to make sure that we are stewards of the public dollar, of the taxpayer dollars, but we are stewards of our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren's future. With your help, we're going to win in November. And boy, just see what we can do for the next 4 years. Thank you all very much.